Hello everybody, this is Ghost Guide Daniel. As you can see, I am dressed in my daytime clothes right now. Yes, they do look like my nighttime clothes. This is just basically my uniform. I'm like a Simpson, it never changes. Now, as I invited you here today for a good reason, if anybody listened to the earlier versions of the podcast, I used to do a segment known as Strange News. So I thought it'd be amazing to move that to the new YouTube channel, which is probably where you're watching it right now, either that or on the Ghost Walks website. But I'm happy to have you here. I have a wonderful article for us to read together. As with all the Strange News segments, I do not pre-read, which means I might screw up here and there. Please bear with me. But I want to be surprised. I want to comment in the moment. Depending on what kind of mood I am in, it might get a little bit aggressive. Not too aggressive. I'll do my best to stay calm. But the one I got today is quite interesting. So let's just have a look at it right now. The Scientist and the Psychic. Growing up, I didn't really know that the paranormal was something not to be believed. So this is from the National Post. It was posted. Now sometimes these articles can be a bit old, but as you can see, this is actually quite new. You can see right here, it is posted March 20th, 2021. So quite recent, which I'm happy to see that the paranormal still makes the news cycle. Christian Smith's memoir weaves the scientific research and skepticism of the paranormal with his own experience with his famous psychic mother, Geraldine Smith. I assume that's who this is right here. And there's Christian. So Christian with his psychic mother. Quote, I always believed because I had witnessed firsthand her psychic abilities, so there was no doubt in my mind, he says. Photo by Christian Smith himself. Wait, how do you do that? Are we looking at the very first selfie in history right here? Somehow he was able to take his own photo. Anyway, that's a complete side note. So the article is by Joanna Cheek. And that's an advertisement. Scientist Christian Smith didn't have a normal childhood. It was ruled by the paranormal. Smith grew up in Canada's reigning psychic for a mother. I hadn't heard of her. I don't know if any of you heard of Geraldine Smith. I might do a little extra research on my own. Maybe come back in the future with some of her experiences. I am intrigued. He grew up with Canada's reigning psychic for a mother, but his experience may not have been so abnormal after all, nor it is beyond the scope of scientific understanding. Smith appears the traditional researcher with advanced degrees in the hard sciences. He has a PhD in medical biophysics from the University of Toronto and is the research operations manager for the Brain Tumor Research Center in Toronto, studying the spread and treatment of inoperable brain tumors. It's interesting. Very cool. It's interesting that a scientific mind would actually put his name like on the line here. I find, and it's even the same nowadays, I experience it even today, is that people from different walks of life who believe in the paranormal but aren't willing to put out there that they fully believe in the paranormal will shy away from it. I actually just had it happen recently because they're afraid that it gives you a bad reputation. Now, I am not a believer in this, is obvious because of the video I am currently recording. And it kind of upsets me a little bit too, the fact that it's been made to be seen as such a joke that some people won't give their name when it comes to certain stories. And as I can see so far from this article is that Christian is not one of those. And I hope that this is on a rising slope, that this is going up, that more people who are scientific thinkers who may think that the paranormal is ridiculous in their terms, is that they might come forward with their experiences. Because the more people like Christian that come forward, the more it becomes more part of mainstream. But I haven't read the entire article yet, so in 2 seconds it could just prove me to be a ridiculous person. But we'll see. We'll see. Where did I leave off? Oh yeah, so he's in the treatment of inoperable brain tumors. As a scientist, Smith is used to skepticism around psychics. But scientists believe in black holes before we could see them, he says. Just because we don't have full evidence, it doesn't mean such experiences can't be explained by science. That's I like that. I am not a 100% believer in the sense that science could not come in one day and say, okay, this is the reason why ghostly experiences occur. I am open to that. I am waiting for it to happen. It hasn't happened yet. They have theories, just theories. They're not nothing proven, unfortunately. One day this might change. Smith has released his book, The Scientist and the Psychic. I haven't read it yet. I plan to. A memoir that weaves the scientific research and skepticism of the paranormal with his own experience of observing his famous psychic mother, Geraldine Smith. Quote, I've always had this pride because she seemed to be a catalyst for change in people's lives and transform them. I got so many messages after my book came out from people who had readings with her who said, your mom, that's amazing. She was an amazing and warm person. She changed my life. When the media first discovered his mother's abilities in the 1970s, it saw something extraordinary. The list of skeptical reporters turned converts grew as they observed her accuracy firsthand. Massive quote here. She had this ability that the rest of us filter out. Geraldine Smith made headlines in March 1978 for smelling sulfur at a spot near the lake in Toronto where she believed the missing Martin Bard's body lay, exactly where the 8-year-old's body was found 2 days later, when the ice melted. That year, many newspapers reported that the Psychic Research Society of California rated her readings as 95% accurate. That's pretty amazing. This Psychic Research Society of California, I'm interested. See, I wonder, my thing is, I wonder if they're run by psychics or run by scientific folk. That would be a huge difference right there. So, commonly described psychics. Doesn't really say who runs it. Presidents? Maybe that will give us... Okay, these are professors at universities. Harvard. Okay. No, this looks like it's legit. Not to say that a society run by psychics wouldn't be legit. I mean from the scientific point of view. Don't get me wrong there. I just want to make sure that... What the heck happened here? In the 60s it was run by a zoologist. That's going... little to the left there. Philosopher, that's kind of interesting, but it seems to have been started. Okay, so there is that element, which is fine. I'm not saying anything against Deborah here. There is the psychic element or the paranormal element that's coming into it. But even there's one here, Chris Rowe, the most recent, says he's a professor of psychology. So that's interesting because he would know if the mind was causing it. So yeah. I don't know. Seems legit to me. So I will take that without a grain of salt. So rated her readings as 95% accurate. Even Frank Sinatra and the Bee Gees were clients, in media reports. Geraldine Smith is out to give the whole realm of psychic phenomenon a good name. At 27, she's done 15,000 readings, helped police and lawyers solve cases, communicated with the spirit of the late Prime Minister Mackenzie King, at a seance filmed by CBC, and has been blacklisted at Las Vegas after making $1,000 on the slot machines. This is from the Kingston Whig Standard of the 1970s. That's a side note. The Vegas thing is obvious, but Mackenzie King, our former prime minister, he was an avid spiritualist back when the spiritualist movement was much more huge. And it is said when he served as prime minister that he actually ran seances in the Laurier House in Ottawa while he was prime minister. And I know there's a picture of him. It wasn't with Geraldine Smith. It was with a woman, Etta James. Don't take my word for it, but it was another psychic that had been proven to be a fake. So, but this is after he is dead. So she communicated with Mackenzie King. So if he was a huge spiritualist in life, then okay, as a side note, he would be maybe more energetic afterwards, and that he could communicate. So I'm going to attempt to look up that seance, and maybe I can, I'll play it in a future episode, and we'll go over it together. That'll be fun, right? Right? Okay. These days, Smith describes his 70-year-old mother, this is Christian, describes his mother as not doing so great as far as her mental clarity. Yet her abilities persist. In late 2017, Andrew Kinsman went missing from Smith's own community in the Toronto gay village. Smith showed Geraldine Kinsman's photo without telling her more than he's missing. He's dead, she said. There was no doubt in her mind, recalled Christian. His body is hiding in plain sight, she continued. But how is that possible in Toronto? It's a huge city, right? Smith remembers asking. 3 months later, as he skimmed the media on his phone, a headline announced a break in the case. Alleged serial killer Bruce MacArthur undoubtedly believed he had outsmarted everyone. I actually remember this. Concealing dismembered remains in planter boxes, essentially in plain sight. I hear these stories when I'm outside of Toronto, and even though Toronto is a beautiful city and everything, I was always like, still kind of creeps me out a bit. But there's a lot of people there, so I can understand that strange fellows can lurk. Those are her exact words. Okay, yeah, so hiding in plain sight. Those were Geraldine's exact words. And it wasn't just once, but they kept repeating it on the news everywhere, on TV, in plain sight, in plain sight. So those are the words that she picked up on. It's a beautiful picture here. It's a family photo. I assume that's Christian. Geraldine Smith believes her abilities are not a sixth sense, but that she has learned to use her five senses to their fullest capacity. Quote, to me there is nothing mystical, nothing supernormal about it, she told the Ottawa Citizen in 1977, so that's Geraldine talking. She believed everyone had the ability to be psychic. Now, I 100% believe that. I think we all have that ability deep down in us, and that if you do build your focus, build your ability to read the energy around you, that it is possible that you could have psychic abilities in so many words. Quote, growing up, I didn't really know the paranormal was something not to be believed. I didn't know that it was something to be scorned or disbelieved, said a younger Christian Smith. Now, I was just talking about that at the beginning, the idea that it is scorned, and I despise that so very much, because I know that in the United States, so close to us, that the paranormal isn't scorned and pushed away, it's kind of embraced. The idea of being closer to the spiritual in many facets, including that of ghosts, is embraced. And I don't know, it's because we're considered more of a secular country, which is good and bad, is that we scorn it more. And we shame people who come forward with their experiences more. But I digress. If I get down that road, we'll be here forever, so I'm not going to do that. Scorned or disbelieved. There was the occasional teasing at school, but that didn't really register that my mother was something other than normal, he says. For me, I always believed because I had witnessed firsthand her psychic abilities, so there was no doubt. At 16, Geraldine Smith began experiencing her first of her, At 16, Geraldine, I'm not cutting that out. You're seeing the raw video. At 16, Geraldine Smith began experiencing what the first of her, that has to be screwed up. The first of her psychology identified as auditory and visual hallucinations. So it was obvious that she was experiencing these what they called hallucinations was actually her psychic ability. Sorry that took so long. Despite being otherwise sane, and had dreams that terrified her because they keep coming true. His mother attempted suicide, leading her to a third psychologist who suggested that she had ESP. Okay, that is very rare. A psychiatrist who would go down that road. This was a very open person. She then joined a psychic group in Toronto to learn how to channel her experiences to benefit others. Smith's memoir doesn't hide the darkness that accompanied his mother's gifts. That's good. I'm glad he's honest about it. Quote, this is Christian. She failed me in some ways. She really did, he said. Her psychic abilities not only physically pulled her away to chase murder investigations and speaking engagements, but mentally tortured her, pushing her towards addiction and an abusive second marriage, which for years destroyed her capacity to connect with Smith. Her son, Christian. Geraldine Smith used no props and had no presence of mysticism. She was described as markedly eccentric. She paid attention to the aura of a person or would hold objects belonging to them to see into their lives. It's something similar. I remember there was a psychic in Hamilton. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but the story was she was the legit real deal, and that sometimes when clients or people would come in for readings, that she would immediately read their aura and know that they weren't ready for a reading, and she would turn them away. She wasn't the nicest person. I remember hearing that she was quite aggressive, which she has the right to be. I mean, if you were reading negative energy all the time and you were empathic to it, you might hold on to some of that very easily. So I can understand that she might turn people away a little bit aggressively. So I can understand this as well. So it would hold objects to see in their lives. She described it as simple intuition. I honestly don't know how it's done, except the most logical thing to me is that because your subconscious has all of the information, and because of the times two people can be in tune, I think we can communicate on many different levels than the verbal level. Believe that. She once told this to the Winnipeg Standard. Yet our society so how society ignores intuition hampers psychic exploration, she continued. I know this to be true for psychics who have raised their children to be open to their psychic abilities, that natural psychic abilities from their childhood actually stays with them and becomes much stronger over the years. So that I believe wholeheartedly that it is a good idea to cultivate that ability as a child, to keep their intuition strong so that it will help them when they get older. That's what when I read that, that's what I see. This is the mechanism many scientists propose for the famously eerie Ouija board. Well, the board is marketed as a tool to communicate. It's actually marketed more as a toy, which I disagree. I like the tool to communicate with the dead by participants placing their hands on it. Scientists describe the eidometer effect, which occurs when people subtly move an object without conscious awareness that they are doing it, usually driven by subconscious motivation or information that was previously learned but forgotten, Smith says. Yeah, I can see that. It's interesting, though, if a bunch of people are using the board together. I mean, if you're not using it alone, then somehow your subconscious would have to be connecting with other people. So I don't know if that disproves what he says, and the idea that if we're all kind of connected at the same time while using the board, because it's not like we're all fighting each other to move it. It is moving in harmony. So what does that say? The fact that we can connect our energies together, it kind of goes into the idea of aura. So maybe Christian, as a scientist, believes that could be an explanation for why the Ouija board works. But a lot of scientists who would not be able to say that, your energies could sync up in that moment. Or maybe it's a ghost. I don't know. Where did I leave off here? Anyway, his mother saw auras of color around people when giving readings. Smith understands this in the context of the medical condition of synesthesia. I am butchering these words. In which there's a sensory sensitivity with crossover between the senses, such as one sees colors when they hear music. Researchers proposed a new theory on this. In 2009, they suggested everyone has these natural connections, but not everyone uses them. They are usually pruned or inhibited by the brain with development, but continue to persist in muted form in all adults, the researchers argue. So actually, it just came back to what I said with the Ouija board, how there's that connection there, either with other people or with feelings, with that energy. Smith's favored scientific hypothesis that his mother is a sensory savant, similar to other savants, such as those people who have extraordinary ability in memory, math, art, or music. Other sensory savants are documented in scientific literature, including Joy Milne, who could smell Parkinson's disease in a person with 100% accuracy. Interesting. She was later found to be smelling Parkinson's odor molecules that are given off with the disease. So it's back to Christian about his mom. She says, he has ability that the rest of us filter out. So if we are filtering out this information, what other information are we filtering out? That's a very interesting thought. I've already gone too long, so I'm just going to get through the rest of the article here, and unless something strikes me as major, I'm not going to stop. I think meditation seems to be the gateway to a lot of intuitive abilities. Smith reverts to the work of researcher Alan Snyder, the University of Sydney, Australia, Sydney with a Y, who argues that savant skills are latent in all of us. Owing to a failure of top-down inhibition, savants can tap into information that exists in all of our brains, but is normal beyond conscious awareness, Snyder argues. Snyder used low-level magnetic stimulation to block the parts of the brain that filters out the majority of sensory information that it detects, to induce savant-like skills in normal individuals by allowing for conscious awareness of the unfiltered information. Interesting. Smith, this is, I guess, back to Christian, proposes that his mother's brain was wired so that her filter didn't inhibit all the sensory information we usually ignore. It's interesting, the thought that the reason why some geniuses, they were physically born with a larger brain, that's why they're so much smarter than everybody else. That could psychic ability also be a physical attribute when it comes down to it? It's the argument here. We know that the brain can grow and rewire over time, known as neuroplasticity. So with training, anyone could cultivate this skill, Smith says. I take back what I said about being born with it, that you can develop it. That makes tons of sense. His mother was encouraged to trust her imagination as a child and used meditation to cultivate these skills. I think meditation seems to be a gateway to a lot of intuitive abilities, says Smith. Highly agree. Meditation is huge. It's done worlds of difference for me. Quote, I wanted to remind people there are these sensitive people out there as a resource that may have some benefit to the world, and we're not limited in our own capabilities. We put our own limits on ourselves, Smith says. Smith remembers lying in bed with a strong feeling arose to him. His puppy's leg was going to snap while a friend watched him for an upcoming trip. He shrugged it off and went on the trip, only to learn that his puppy broke his leg. Oh, I won't make that mistake again. I will definitely listen to that voice inside, he says. Smith doesn't believe he has a special gift. I think I just learned it because I was sitting in my mom's classes over and over. I learned at a young age we all have these abilities and not to discount them or suppress them. He wants his mother's legacy to teach people to slow down, pay attention, and trust their own senses. That's a good lesson. Quote, I've been convinced that heightened perceptual ability is available to all of us on some level, if we're open to it. So this article is absolutely wonderful. I personally love it. I am a huge fan in the idea that more scientific people can come forward and put their name on the line so that people can believe. Because I'm not 100% believer in this stuff. And if you were to ask me what ghosts were, I'd have my theories, but I would never say it 100%. I am always staying open to the idea that there's going to be more information down the road. And I'm looking forward to learning it all. But again, I've already gone way too long with this. Thank you for watching. There will be more videos down the road. I'm looking forward to doing that, to building this channel. And of course, make sure you listen to the Ghost Guy Daniel podcast. This week, I am very happy to be covering a subject that is near and dear to my own heart. So I hope you enjoy that. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you soon.